The lights in the studio shone so bright they almost hid the truth, bouncing off polished floors that had seen years of laughter and applause. The audience clapped, loud and cheerful at first, but then it softened into something that felt forced. Like even they could sense the air was heavier tonight. Jay Leno walked out with that same practiced smile he had worn for decades, but something in his eyes didn't match it. The cameras zoomed in a little too long, catching the small twitch in his jaw, the way his hands rubbed together as if they were cold. The stage looked perfect, but underneath it all, it felt like a world built on cracks. Laughter covering the kind of words that leave scars. In the whispers behind the scenes, one name was floating around: Ibrahim Traoré, the African leader people were calling the voice of dignity. The man who spoke when others stayed silent. Jay had joked about leaders like him before, brushed off whole cultures with a punchline that always landed to a roar of laughter. Those days felt far away now, but they were still here, hiding in clips that would never disappear. Jay cleared his throat and gave a small laugh that didn't sound like him, forced out like something stuck in his throat. "Guess I'm the one under the spotlight tonight," he said, his voice breaking the hush for a second, but not the weight in the room. He didn't know what was coming, didn't see how close it was. In just a few moments, a voice from across the world would reach him and tear through years of jokes, cutting deeper than anything the cameras had ever caught. And there would be no laugh track to save him this time. The cheers from the stage had faded, but the storm was just starting to rise behind closed doors. Jay walked into his dressing room, his smile dropping the second the door clicked shut. The walls were lined with framed photos of famous guests and awards shining like old medals. But tonight, they felt cold, like they were staring back at him with judgment. His phone buzzed on the counter, headline after headline flashing across the screen. "Traoré speaks out, the world is listening?" Late Night Power questioned. He scrolled, hands trembling, as clips from his own show played in his mind. Those easy jokes about African leaders, the way he brushed off culture with a smirk, lines that once pulled laughs from the crowd, but now sounded sharp, cutting. Years of making people the punchline suddenly played back like a reel of ghosts, and every laugh in those clips felt cruel now, like a knife turning in the dark. Out in the hallway, voices hushed, but urgent. A producer leaned against the wall, whispering into his phone, "This is all over the news." Jay Traoré's statement. "It's everywhere." Not far away, a young reporter walked past with a notebook clutched to her chest, muttering under her breath, "People are saying this changes everything." Jay shut the door tighter, trying to keep the noise out, but the silence inside was louder. He sank into the chair, staring at his reflection under the bright mirror lights. And for the first time, he didn't see the king of late night. He saw a man waiting for something he couldn't stop. He reached for the remote and played one of his old segments, the one where he joked about an African president's funny accent. Back then, it had sparked laughter. Now it sounded like poison. He shut it off, chest heavy, the air thick. A knock on the door broke through his thoughts. "Jay," a voice called softly, "we've got something." It just came in. His eyes flicked up as the door opened and a tablet was placed in his hands. The screen glowed with a paused video. The title read, "A Message from Ibrahim Traoré." He felt the blood drain from his face. His fingers hovered, cold and stiff, before pressing play. The image of Ibrahim appeared, calm, strong, eyes steady, and without a word yet spoken, Jay felt the weight of what was coming. The live red light on the studio camera blinked outside, calling him back. There was no time to prepare, no script to hide behind. He had spent years controlling the narrative, but now the man he had joked about, dismissed, and turned into a punchline was about to speak, and the whole world would hear. The man who had silenced others now faced a voice he could not mute. The studio lights burned brighter than ever, but the room felt cold, almost breathless, as the giant screen behind Jay flickered to life. The audience, moments ago buzzing with chatter, fell into a silence so sharp it could cut. And there he was, Ibrahim Traoré, not with anger, not with rage, but with a calm that felt heavier than any shout. His eyes were still, his presence commanding without trying. The camera held on Jay's face, catching the twitch in his cheek, the sweat forming at his hairline, and the way his hands gripped the edge of the desk like he was holding on to the last piece of solid ground. Ibrahim's voice broke the silence, deep and steady. "Words can build, or they can break. You chose laughter to break us." Jay's throat tightened. He forced a smile, his laugh coming out dry, almost painful. "It was just jokes," he muttered, the words sounding smaller than ever in a room that suddenly felt too big. Ibrahim didn't blink. "Jokes don't end when the laughter stops," he said, each word slow, deliberate. "They live in scars." The audience shifted uneasily, a ripple of murmurs running through the rows. Some people lowering their phones, while others raised them higher, to capture this moment that didn't feel real. Jay's heartbeat thudded so loud he swore the mic could pick it up. He looked around, desperate for an escape, but there was none. No punchline sharp enough to cut through this silence, no applause to drown out the truth. The cameras caught everything, his fake grin melting, his eyes darting, his confidence crumbling piece by piece. Ibrahim didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His calm was a storm, and Jay was sinking in it. For the first time in his long career, words failed him. His lips parted, searching for something, anything, but nothing came. The red light on the camera burned like judgment. Ibrahim's image stayed steady, his voice the last sound that mattered. And then, the silence returned, heavy and final. For the first time, Jay Leno had nothing to say. The studio was empty now. The lights dimmed to a dull glow, and the seats that once shook with laughter sat in dead silence. Jay stayed in his chair for a long time, staring at the floor as if it could give him back the moments he had lost. The echo of applause was gone, replaced by the hum of cameras shutting down. He picked up his phone and scrolled without thinking. Comment after comment flooded the screen. Accountability isn't a punchline? Not so funny now. Every word cut deep, each one a reminder that the world he ruled with jokes had turned against him. He stood slowly, his legs stiff, and walked down the hallway lined with golden frames and shiny awards. They had once made him proud, now they felt like tombstones, silent reminders of a career that was no longer his to celebrate. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't need to look, he already knew it wasn't a call he wanted to take. When he finally glanced at the screen, it was an old friend. He let it ring out. Another buzz came in, this time a message from his daughter. "Dad, are you okay?" He stared at it, thumb hovering, but he couldn't reply. What would he even say that the man who once had the world laughing now couldn't find a single word? He slipped the phone back into his pocket and looked at his reflection in the dark studio glass. The man staring back wasn't the one people cheered for. He was smaller, quieter, broken. Inside his head, a thought whispered like a confession. I spent a lifetime speaking. Now the world listens to my silence. Outside, the world moved. On other shows began inviting voices that had long been ignored. Networks erased old clips. Sponsors shifted their ads. It wasn't a revolution, but it was a crack in the wall, a start. Jay stepped outside into the night, the cold air hitting his face like truth. In the end, it wasn't the applause that defined him. It was the echo of a voice he tried to laugh away.